Welcome to Shepherd's Coffee Talk. You know, we hit the 60 mark. I'm 67, and you know, there's kind of that feeling of, oh my God, am I over the hill? What is there to look forward to?
It's a perception. It's ridiculous. I say it's all wrong, and our guest today agrees. Helen Hirsh Spence founded Top 60 Over 60 to celebrate people who have been lucky enough to make it to that point. Let's look at it that way. Helen, tell us what Top 60 Over 60 is.
Well, it's a social enterprise, essentially, to draw attention to those of us who are over 60, who are still making positive contributions to society, and to really amplify the impact that we all can have after a certain age, contrary to what our North American youth-obsessed culture believes.
Well, and truth be told, more and more of us continue to work past the perceived retirement age.
Yeah, exactly.
That's no longer true. So I love that you want to celebrate and also elevate the awareness that there is a tremendous problem with ageism especially in North American society.
Yeah.
And you just wrote an op-ed about that.
It's not been published yet, so
hoping
but
to.
I have written a ton about it, and
yeah.
it's all in blogs and in articles that we have on our website, which is top60over60.com, all written out. Tons of information about what it means to age well, the myths that we debunk about those of us who are older. And I have to say that ever since I started doing this work and the research, which has been significant in the last four years or so, I have become really proud and not hesitant at all about saying how old I am.
Right.
You know, so that has been a huge shift for me. So I realized to what extent I myself had been influenced by societal notions of aging, that it meant frailty, vulnerability, dependence on others, and it really infuriated me when I was confronted with some ageist encounters, let's put it that way, when I was applying for fellowships and scholarships. They never once said, you're too old. But when I looked at the candidates who got into these programs, they were all 20, 30 years old. Yeah. And I would have contributed meaningfully to those groups.
Right.
But so, you know, that was only one example. But, you know, I have seen it in the workplace many times now. And I'm really eager to help those of us who are interested in continuing to work or who want to become entrepreneurs to understand how capable they are. So we do a lot of programs and workshops and courses for individuals, mostly for groups, not for individuals anymore, but in meetups and so on, to help them understand what it means to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which doesn't mean you're going to start a new venture necessarily. It means you've got sort of a growth mindset, you're open to experience. And interestingly enough, and this is a monologue, and I'm sorry for it, is that the most successful entrepreneurs are 55 and older.
Well, there's no reason you have to be 20 to live your life. I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as we're here and we have breath and we're willing to learn, we can grow as human beings. It's not done until we're done.
No, but also have a society that values us. And values our experience, because we can be tremendous mentors. And that's kind of a role that is very important in society.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Now, Helen's background is as an educator. She was a principal, she was headmistress at a local private school here in Ottawa. So your background really is about the details of this whole thing. And I love that you've spent a lot of time and effort researching this concept. So share a little bit about the research you've done.
I was fortunate in that I got support from the Ontario Centre of Workforce Innovation and Ryerson University. And so I put together a program. I developed a program. So it was like developing curriculum and then, you know, delivering it. But I had 50 participants in 2 cohorts, and they were all 55 and older. And what I was trying to do was to show to what extent self-directed ageism influenced individuals' ideas of themselves, the entrepreneurial mindset. And it was hugely successful in that everybody enjoyed themselves. They learned a lot about ageism, but more importantly, they got a sense of who they can be at this point, because it was 3 weeks, but 1 day each week, a lot of reflection, a lot of interaction. What was special is that we're people from across different sectors. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and we've been using it as proof of concept and you know, positioning it in such a way so we can offer it to businesses and to organizations, corporations, anybody actually who's interested.
Now, how do you see ageism in our society now? Where do you see examples of this?
I see it everywhere. In fact, I think that the people who are the most ageist sometimes are ourselves, because we don't agree, we don't understand to what extent we have absorbed the culture of believing that, you know, an old dog can't learn new tricks. I mean, there's so many expressions that we use. I go into a bookstore to look for a card for a friend who's 60 or something. I'll invariably come out with something that's funny, but it's insulting and mocking old age. So it's absolutely everything. If you look in the media, only recently do we see people with beautiful gray hair like you in ads, because people are smartening up and they realize that we're the largest demographic, not only in Canada, but in the United States next year. And our generation, is going to expand to double the number in the next 20 years. So if we don't start orienting our businesses and our lives more towards the options that are also appreciated by older adults, it's going to be a problem. I think the vocabulary we use is lacking. Senior is a pejorative term, I'd say.
I agree with you.
And so I never refer to anybody as a senior, and I don't like it myself, because I think we think of it in terms of that narrow band of individuals who are older, who need canes or are disabled in some way because of health. And I've just reading the research, there is less than 10% of people in nursing homes in the United States who are like 80 and above. I mean, we think that everybody goes into a decline and a hole and disappears once they become 65.
The one thing is, you mentioned the cliche, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Most of us don't feel like old dogs.
No.
Most of us feel, and you'll hear people as they mature say, I still feel like I'm 20 years old.
I have the mind of a 25-year-old.
Why do we allow those conversations in our company? So I'm all about correcting people when they address those things, especially when they talk about themselves. Because really, you are ageless. It's just a number. It's an arbitrary thing. We created a calendar. We created a clock. It doesn't matter. It's what you do with the time you have.
It's chronological,
frankly.
that's all.
But yes, but what I love is that, Helen, you're leading this charge, and let's alter that conversation and create a space for, you know, more allowance of us to be who we really are without judgment.
Yeah, for sure. The thing is that in terms of Canada's economy, if we're living longer, so my grandchildren who were born in the last 5 years have an average life expectancy of 104. So we can live, I mean, in the near future, people are going to be living longer post-career than during their career. Right. We've got to shift in a number of different ways. So I hope that as a boomer generation who's pushed the boundaries, that we who are in that cohort will push the boundaries here too. I'm just as capable of working now, and I'm probably healthier than I was when I was sleep deprived with young children. You know,
good point.
So why not give me the opportunity? Not only that, the research proves that experience trumps knowledge and skills. So you know, you can't learn experience; you have to live it. And it doesn't matter where you are working. That experience comes into play and is valuable. But I think we start to question when we, especially if we retire early or retire at any age, we begin to question and doubt ourselves. So that whole issue around self-confidence when you get older is a critical one to understand and not to lose.
And I think this idea of people, particularly women, feeling irrelevant or feeling unseen, undervalued, underappreciated, really that begins with us, though. We can't expect the world to show up and say, whoa, I forgot. We've got to be the people putting that forward. So who are we when we show up? Now, Helen shows up big time, because we were having a chat yesterday on the phone about her experience and what you've done to see the world and push your own boundaries. So talk a little about what you do to keep yourself growing.
So I really believe that I have to push myself outside my comfort zone in order to grow. And I don't find that it's hard to do because one, I'm an extrovert and I like people and I love to travel. And I learned languages when I was young because I think I wanted to be a diplomat or an interpreter or something. Diplomats were not possible for my age group. At the time, I thought of being an interpreter. I realized I didn't want to be that, but I learned I speak 4 languages fluently, so I wanted to travel. So I combined a lot of not-for-profit work that I've been doing and volunteer work in a number of different countries worldwide. I want to offset always my carbon footprint, so I always contribute either through an organization or independently. So I went off, for instance, in 2010 to India and Bhutan, and I spent 2.5 months there. And Bhutan is not a place you can easily access. India is much easier. But there I coached a principal of a private school in northern India who was having trouble because it was co-educational and all the girls were always getting damned for all the problems that the boys had with the girls. Typical. Anyway, so I was coaching them and the board. Then I went off to Bhutan and I trekked around a remote region. The governor of that region asked me to come there. Well, I wrote to him, in fairness. I initiated, he didn't know who I was. But he said, come. And I said, okay. Only as I was leaving did my husband say, Helen, what do you know about this guy? He asked you to bring a compound bow and cash with you.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, you're adventuresome.
And you did.
I didn't bring the compound bow. I told him that was not possible because of security. But I didn't know at the time that the national sport in Bhutan is archery. So it made sense.
Oh,
and I saw many archery, but it was phenomenal because these were little Himalayan villages that had been there for, centuries. And I had access to the Buddhist temples and whatnot to take pictures because they wanted to promote it through Western eyes. So I wrote a little booklet. So that's one of the things. I was in Bolivia, Honduras, working with the Canadian Executive Services overseas. Went off to Kenya to work in a strategic planning in a rural school and ended up then on the way back, I saw you could stop in Ethiopia. These are all crazy adventures, but I have to say I'm not a risk taker. I'm a calculated risk taker. And then I went trekking off in the Simeon Mountains, with a scout behind me with a gun. And it was because of the Eritreans who were near the border. And I guess I could have been captured. Who knows? I didn't think about it.
Right.
And how long ago are you talking about?
That was 2016.
Not that long ago.
No. So
it's
curiosity.
Yeah.
Right? I think really that's one of the keys to staying young, feeling young,
Absolutely.
is being curious about.
It's about
and staying
learning.
involved.
Yeah. Growth mindset. That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, top 60 over 60 made me think initially of an award like top 40 over 40 or top 50 over 50. Is that something
No, there are no
thinking?
tops. They're all under. That's the whole point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I created that and I still have that intention of looking at ways in which you can promote those of us who are over 60. It doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurial. It could be also 60 ideas. And I'll do that when I get a conference together sometime in the next few years. There's no hurry. I'm having so much fun, putting together programs and facilitating and working with us. And mostly, I'm reading extensively and writing. Stuff I never thought I'd be doing.
It's wonderful. Well, it's so wonderful that you've created this platform to change this conversation, which badly needs addressing. So thank you for joining us today, and cheers to you, Helen.
Thank you.
Well
Great to be here.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.